Hi, Mark Gilbert here. This video, I want to discuss with you the topic of what is spiritual wholeness. You know, we hear a lot of words about the fact that we need to become whole, and especially when we reference somebody who's on the spiritual path. And what exactly do we mean by that phrase? Well, briefly, for you to understand it, you need to understand something that I've been talking about in some of my other videos and in my writings on my website, Conscious Bridge, and that's the fact that we live in multiple realms at the same time. Now, I don't want to go into too much here about that because we've got other videos and writings that you can reference, and there'll be some linked in the show description. But I want to reference the fact that we live not only in this physical world, which we move about in our day-to-day affairs, we also live in a mental world, the world of our thoughts, and we live in a spiritual world. And we might think of it sort of as a three-layer cake of body, mind, and spirit. But we live in all three worlds. And wholeness calls us to bring all of those realms together, to see the interconnectedness and the unity of all three. And that's briefly what wholeness is. However, when we first start talking about wholeness, a lot of people will reference the fact that, oh, you need to get whole. You need to bring your separate selves or separate parts of yourselves together. You need to integrate all of your aspects of being into one. You need to heal your shadow and integrate your shadow into yourself and bring yourself to a state of oneness. And that's often referenced as wholeness. It's bringing into alignment our thoughts, our words, our deeds, our various ways in which we show up in the world. And that's an important step on the process of becoming whole, but that's not the final step. The final step is really to move beyond that and to recognize and sense that we live in a universe of oneness. And in that oneness, which incorporates not only the world of physical matter and stuff and our mental thoughts in the mental world, but is a spiritual world of oneness and high-level truth. And we need to bring and see all of that together in a unity. And then when we can do that and live from that space, we're really, truly bringing wholeness into our lives. We are really living from a sense of spiritual wholeness. Yes, it's important to bring the aspects of my being as Mark together and to heal any shadow work and to bring any separate aspects of myself where I show up differently, to bring them into alignment, to bring my life, my individual life whole. But that's only dealing with the physical and the mental, and we need to bring it into the spiritual realm. What I'd like to do is bring in and reference the words of the New Thought teacher and writer Ernest Holmes, who has been a very influential person in my life, and share several quotes with you as he wrote so much about the topic of wholeness. In this first quote, Holmes says, "The physical body is an instrument and a mode of expression of the divine individual. It is meant to function in wholeness and in harmony through the free flow of spiritual energy." In the second quote, he says, "Since God is everywhere, and since the subtle essence of the infinite is invisible, we do not have to search out the divine spirit, but rather we should recognize it as the center of all life. That which we see is merely a reflection of this invisible presence. The spirit itself cannot be seen, but it is felt. Just as we do not see the essence of beauty, but we feel its presence, so we do not see God, but we do feel the divine in everything. The Creator is revealed in His creation. The formless gives rise to the formed. We should consciously unite ourselves with this invisible essence which pervades everything. That which our lesson says is eternally unconditioned and undivided. To do this is to find wholeness." And just a couple of more quotes from Holmes. "This is a universal wholeness, seeking expression through everything. We're simply calling it life. Life is infinite energy coupled with the limitless creative imagination. It is the invisible essence and substance of every visible form. Its nature is goodness, truth, wisdom, and beauty, as well as energy and imagination." And Holmes also wrote that the kingdom of heaven means the kingdom of harmony, of peace, of joy, and of wholeness. It is an inward kingdom. And finally, the whole search of man is to be made whole because he is not happy until he is. Hopefully from these quotes you're seeing that Holmes is describing that spiritual state of wholeness is what truly heaven is, and that it's something that calls us in our actions to attain it, to move towards it, to realize it, to become it, and that we are continuously on the search for wholeness in our lives. When we're unhappy, when we are feeling miserable or feeling down about life, oftentimes it's with a sense of our life not having a sense of wholeness to it. And the more we can sense and bring that inner wholeness and inner peace to our own individual life, we're making that first step towards true wholeness, which is uniting ourselves with the divine or God, bringing the three-layer cake together, living in harmony with spirit, mind, and body, so that our thoughts and our actions and the results in the world are totally in alignment with what Spirit's highest vision is for us. And when we're doing that, that is a true sense of harmony, when everything is playing out perfectly. I'd like to close today with the words of modern-day philosopher Ken Wilber in his most recent book, which was entitled Finding Radical Wholeness. Now, I'm going to talk about this book in an upcoming video, but what I'd like to do is share with you just a couple of quotes of Wilbur talking about what wholeness is. Now, obviously, from the title, his book is about finding and embracing the sense of wholeness, a radical wholeness, he calls it. But it's a wholeness that is the same wholeness that I've been describing in this video. And early on in the book, he talks about the importance of having an experience of waking up or feeling that interconnectedness to one and all that is. A waking up experience, which he says we can attain, quote, through the direct experimental practices of meditation, contemplation, or yoga to transform consciousness from that limited and contracted state through several much more inclusive, open, and free states to a genuine wholeness, a pure non-duality, an ultimate unity consciousness or cosmic consciousness, an absolute oneness with the entire universe. In this, he's describing that there are practices we can use, and those spiritual practices that we teach in New Thought and in other traditions are really designed to get us to move out of the world of form into the world of spirit, to transcend with our attention not what's in front of us in this material world, but to recognize its reality as an experience, but to also recognize that our true reality transcends this world into a world of spirit. You might look at it that in the middle layer of the mental world, we can look down into the world of form and focus our attention there, or we can turn our attention upwards to spirit and remain anchored in that in our consciousness and focus and intentions. And that's what Wilbur is talking about here, is that there are meditative practices that you can use in practice to actually attain that spiritual state of oneness. And once you can, that is one aspect of what he describes as being whole, or feeling the sense of wholeness. And finally, one other quote from Wilbur's book. In the back in the notes, he makes the following statement. He says that words, concepts, and symbols just won't work when it comes to knowing ultimate reality. Instead, one must have a direct and immediate experience, not an explanation of it to truly know it. He adds, there is also a general agreement among the most sophisticated mystics that this realization is of a reality that is deeply non-dual or not two, where the not two means, to the extent that it can be put into words, which is not very much, that there is a non-duality, a oneness, or a wholeness of infinite and finite, subject and matter, formless and form, unmanifest and manifest, spirit and matter, heaven and earth, nirvana and samsara, good and evil. This non-duality applies to any other pairs of opposites you want to mention, with ultimate reality remaining not two. So what is wholeness and what is spiritual wholeness? Spiritual wholeness is, yes, healing ourselves, healing whatever parts of ourselves that we need to bring into alignment. But it's also turning our attention and focus upward to spirit, to using spiritual practices like meditation, and contemplation and reading works and being in nature and whatever it takes for us to develop a sense of an experience of the reality of oneness in our lives. When we can recognize that this entire universe is a wholeness and that we are an individualized expression of it, when we can recognize that we don't sit separate and apart from the world or from all else, that every person, every expression, everything in this world is one. There is not two. There is only one. When we can truly anchor that sense into our awareness and know it at the deepest level, then we have truly attained the highest levels of a spiritual wholeness. I hope this has been beneficial for you, and I appreciate you listening and watching. Thank you.